Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, February 6th, 2018, and I really appreciate you guys joining us for this very special live webinar broadcast and the special guests that I'm about to introduce to you, Mr. Jim Fortin. So, most of you guys, well, let me just check in. Do we have, if you guys have listened to my podcast, the Mind Your Business podcast, have you listened to the episode 114 that I did with Jim Fortin? If you could just type a Y into the chat box, I'd love to see. Yeah, Jim, I'm getting a ton of yeses and a ton of Ys. That is really the origin story behind what led to so much more that I want to quickly share with you in 2 minutes before I just give Jim the mic. I asked Jim to come onto the podcast back in the summer of last year, and we talked about a lot of amazing stuff. That's episode 114. I'll make sure you guys get a link to that after this, so if you haven't listened to it, you can. Most of you guys already have. That episode quickly shot up to the most downloaded / most popular episode in over 144 episodes in over 2 years, with over 18,500 downloads just on that one episode, and rightfully so. A lot of listeners have come back and listened to it multiple times, myself included. After that episode aired, not only did it have an impact on our listeners, but it had an impact on me. Some things he said really stuck with me. So I reached out to Jim personally, and I inquired about coaching, because I'm always looking to be open and being coachable, and to learning, to growing, and as Jim would put it, evolving. And so Jim actually, I had to pay Jim a lot of money, but we got the opportunity to work together. And I think from our very first call, Jim really opened my mind to a whole new way of being and operating in my business. In fact, on our first call, I told him some of the goals and the things that I was set out to do. And what I quickly discovered was how small I was still playing in my business. And that might seem silly to some of you, because I've been doing this a long time. I've already got a multiple 7-figure business, and what a lot of people would call, air quote, successful. And he quickly showed me how small I've been playing, and how much I've been making decisions about my life and my business based on my circumstances, not from my possibilities. And it was an immediate shift. And since then, every time we get on a call and every time we talk, I hang on his every word. And so much has shifted, but I want to take a moment and share some of the biggest life-changing, transformative results that I've had through working with Jim for just a few months. The biggest one being, or I guess the most measurable one, being that we had the biggest financial quarter, the last quarter of 2017, in 10 years of business. Biggest by far, double anything else I've ever done. And whenever I want to talk about anyone and what they do, I want to be able to show actual measurable results, and that is definitely it. But another one, for those of you guys who've been longtime listeners of the Mind Your Business podcast, know that for a few years, my wife and I have been up to and dreaming about our dream home. And that was something that I realized, thanks to Jim, how much fear and resistance I still had about making such a big purchase and a big investment. Yet this past December, we were able to pull the trigger and not just buy, but move into our dream home, which was just a huge accomplishment. Huge accomplishment. But where I'm at now, and the best way I could sum up what Jim has been able to help me with, is really, he's shown me how to master my relationship with my thoughts, so I know where to focus my attention. And I know what to do with that monkey brain, that self-talk, those thoughts that lead us to self-sabotage, and how to get rid of those destructive habits that prevent our success. And at the end of the day, there's all these cool measurable results, growth in the business, more money, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that every single day, I'm happy. And he showed me how to access that. And so it has been such a gift and such an honor. And you guys who've been following me for a while know I don't just do webinars with anyone and everyone. But when someone has had such an impact in my life that Jim has, I would be crazy not to share them with you guys. So I'm hoping we can all give it up, a virtual silent round of applause for the one and only Mr. Jim Fortin. Jim, how you
Hey,
doing?
James. Good, good. Thank you for all that. I really appreciate that. And like James said, I'm going to actually, I do talk really fast, but I want to slow down tonight. You guys take notes as we go. Pay attention because this is not just a webinar. I'm not going to blabber for 20 minutes about me and all that kind of good stuff. We're going to start digging in right away with content, and I'm going to start giving you things to shift your mindset. So, your big takeaway tonight is going to be for those of you that have listened to the podcast, we're going to take that and we're going to concretize it as best we possibly can visually with imagery tonight, and then we're going to apply it to your business. And then we're going to finish up with ways of being, because this is titled Think, Act, and Be Bigger. And we're going to talk about ways of being the kind of person that you need to be to get the results that you want in business. Hey, James, at any point, if you want to stop me anywhere, you want to interject, you want me to expand upon something, simply hop in and let me know. Okay?
You got it.
All righty, buddy. Okay, so plain and simple tonight is about one thing. It's not about the abstract stuff. Tonight is about exponential business growth. Like James talked about, he has experienced a little earlier when he was talking about me and what we've been doing for the past couple of months. So everything we're going to do tonight is going to be relevant to you growing your business. Here's the thing, and I work with selling professionals and entrepreneurs, and most people get very slow business growth. And I think James said that you would increase your sales, what, by how much was it for the last quarter of the year you increased, James?
We we doubled our best quarter that we'd ever had before.
Okay, doubled his best quarter, whereas most people are puttering along at like an 8 to 10%, if even that, yearly growth in business. And now I'm not really good at math, and that's one of my stories, but if you're growing your business at 10% a year, which is where most people are, I'm going to tell you right now, you are on a slow boat to China. Now, speaking of math, I think it's going to take you like 10 years to double your income at a 10% growth rate. I mean, you should be growing at 30, 40, and 50% a year, but most people can't achieve that. And the reason why they keep underperforming is this slide here in front of you is because you keep trying to change your behavior instead of transforming your mind, your habits, and your identity. If you look right in front of you, this is a neurolinguistic concept. It's called a logical level, created by Gregory Bateson back in, I believe, 1957. He was a social scientist and psychologist. We won't spend a lot of time here, but what I want you to notice here is we work from the inside out. We're like an onion, and we work from the inside, which is identity, to beliefs, to I added stories there, which are not part of the formal model, to capabilities and skills, to behavior and environment. What everybody tries to focus on, and you hear all the time, is you've got to work until your eyeballs bleed, and you've got to work really hard, and you've got to, take massive action. All these things are environment. I'm sorry, all these things are behavior, and you're wanting to change your behavior and do something in your behavior to affect your environment, which means your outcome. But more times than not, and James, you've been doing this a lot of years. How many people do you see still working really hard and they're still not getting the results that they want?
All the time. All the time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because almost everyone is focusing on what they're doing instead of, and this is the topic of tonight, they're focusing on what they're doing instead of who and how they're being. And that's where we're going to pull your focus to tonight is who do you have to be and how do you have to show up mentally in your business to actually, when you do things, you get better results from the doing. James, you said something in one of the emails about how you're even doing less, but getting better results. What does that mean for everybody on the webinar? The webinar tonight.
I think there were many times I found myself spinning my wheels and like procrastinating on the things that I knew I needed to be doing by picking up the little busy tasks. But there was also a deeper issue about letting go. I think most of us can deal with those issues of perfectionism and having to do it our way and holding on tight to that and to be able to let that go, to trust in others, to outsource, to delegate at a whole nother level means I don't need to be doing nearly as much as I was doing.
Yeah, and guys, I had a coaching call of James and I took his hand off the steering wheel. I'm like, you know what? We need to take your hand off the steering wheel and let you guide the car, but put somebody else's hand on the steering wheel. But that one behavior there was bottlenecking his performance because he had his hands like really tight on the wheel. So we took his hands off and we had to do some mental work. But when he changed his behavior as a result of changing his thinking, everything opened up in his business for him even more. So we're going to keep on going here, but very quickly, I'm not going to spend more than a minute here. But obviously, my name is Jim Fortin. I've been a speaker for 25 years now. I've spoken at large events with people like Donald Trump and Tony Robbins. And that picture there, the Learning Annex, largest seminar company in the U.S. I used to be their national spokesperson for their Speakers Academy. And interestingly, I got a call from them today in 10 years saying, hey, guy, we want you to come back. I'm a master hypnotist. Most people don't know that's endorsed by the American Medical Association years ago, British Medical, American Dental, American Psychological, etc. I'm an NLP master practitioner, and I've created many programs around brain-based selling and performance. So I've got all the technical expertise, but I want to tell you guys where I think most of what I do comes from, and it comes from my brother-in-law, who is a shaman. There's a picture there where at Jenny Lake in Jackson Hole, Wyoming years ago. This is one of the only pictures I had around the house. And he started apprenticing with a shaman when he was 6 years old. Today, he lives in Dallas. He works as a healer. People come to him when they're physically ill. His life story's been written. He has no interest in speaking or being in public. He's very, very private. But he's been a massive influence on my life when it comes to evolving. And James used the word evolving earlier. It's a word that I use a lot. He's been a massive influence on my life, if not, well, not massive. He's been the number one influence on helping me evolve my consciousness, my mind, and my mental capacities. And so I bring what he's taught me to you guys. Okay, very, very quickly here, I've worked with top performers. I've worked with Academy Award winners. I've worked with Olympic athletes. I've worked with Nobel Prize winner. And I've worked with thousands of selling professionals and entrepreneurs from many, many different companies. Okay, enough about me. You guys aren't here for me. Let's talk about you guys. All right, here's something that I want you to get. You have to get this. Most people think their business is about funnels and process and Facebook ads and their LLC and their logos and everything that we associate with business. And business is about that stuff. But what I really want you to get is that your business is a 100% reflection of the being that you are. And the being is how you think and how you be and your filters and everything else. So what you get in business is a direct reflection of who you are as a human being. And see, most people think they're a business person, but what most people never recognize is whatever limitations you have mentally, you take those to work with you because you go to work and you put work clothes on, so to speak, and you're a professional and you're an entrepreneur. But every limitation that you have as a human being, you take to work with you. And most people never realize how profound that is. So what we're going to talk about tonight, 4 categories. We're going to talk about brain, mind, thoughts, and characteristics, which are ways of being. If you've listened to podcast 114, 141, we've talked about the brain and the mind in 114, 141. We've talked about thoughts. But what I want to do is recapitulate the first 3, brain, mind, and thoughts. And then I really want to dig into characteristics and ways of being tonight. Okay, James, anything to add so far, or are we good to go?
We are good.
Perfect. Okay. So we're going to start with the brain first, and we're going to go back to a little science here. This is a picture. I won't explain everything behind it. You can find it online. This is a picture from a study done at the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Germany. What they discovered back in 2008 is, and I won't go into how this all happened because we don't have time tonight. What they discovered is up to 95% of your decisions are made for you by your brain, and you have no awareness that your brain is even making your decisions for you. Quite literally, all of us, we operate on unconscious brain autopilot. And right now, even though you think you're making decisions about things, you're not. You analytically think you're making them, but your brain is making them for you. And this institute, Max Planck, they are very prominent. They have 43 Nobel Prize winning scientists contributing research at this organization. And what this particular study found is that, again, up to 95% of everything that you do is already determined by your brain. And we'll talk about how this plays out in your business. This is Dr. Alex Peugeot from the University of Rochester. Most of the decisions you make aren't based on conscious reasoning. So we think we know why we do what we do, and people rationalize why we do what we do. But the reality is we do it not even knowing why, and then we analytically rationalize it. But the bottom line at this point in our time together is that your brain has you operating on automatic autopilot with regard to your habits. And that's what we want to talk about next, is that your habits are controlled by a little small part of the brain, a little part of the brain called the reptilian part of the brain. Three primary parts of the brain: the reptilian brain, the oldest part of the brain; the mammalian brain, which is the middle brain, the limbic system, and the emotional brain; and then the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive thinking part of the brain. Now, you think your way through business, and you think that think up all of your decisions, and you analyze and you rationalize. Well, science proves that's not true. Your brain makes your decisions for you. So what we're going to talk about very quickly is how this part of the brain with habits plays out in your business. Okay, stoplight. James, you've got a new Tesla, right?
Yeah.
Or within a year old. You've been driving it, even though there's a lot of traffic in Laguna. You still get to drive your car every so often,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
When
there's not, when you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever pulled up to, been on the main road and the light turns yellow when you're driving? And has that ever happened before? A stoplight turned yellow?
Yes.
Now, when that happened, did you say, whoa, what does that mean? That turned yellow. Does that mean that I stop? Does that mean that I run it? Does that mean that I hit, I floor it? Does that mean I turn left? I turn right? What do I do? Or do you automatically respond with no analytical thought?
I automatically respond.
No analytical thought. You can be talking to Chelsea, whatever, talking to Julie on the phone, whatever. The thing is this: there's no analytical thought behind the behavior of stopping, right?
Yeah.
It just happens automatically. And that's what I want the rest of you to get, is how you're showing up in your business. You have these analytical thoughts of all these things that you want to create, but you're just showing up, and your brain is actually doing this for you and having you show up on autopilot. And let me show you here how you show up during your days on autopilot. So in the morning, you get up, your alarm goes off, whatever time it goes off, and I want you to notice here is that I don't know what order that you do things in. I don't know if you brush your teeth first. I don't know if you don't brush it at all in the morning until you've had your coffee and you've had breakfast. I don't know if you shower first. But what I want you to notice is whatever you do in the morning is generally the same sequence of events. Now, there are some people that are different, but James, your morning time, and if it's not, please say so, but is your sequence of behavior in the morning pretty much the same thing every single morning?
Oh, it totally is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like step one, whatever you do, step two, step three, step four. And let's say, for example, that you drink coffee. I don't know if you do or you don't, but some people want to have their coffee before they brush their teeth. There's not one morning they get up and go, you know what? I think I'm going to brush my teeth first today before I have my coffee. It doesn't happen that way because the brain operates on autopilot. What I want you to get is that your business is a reflection of you and your brain, and your business is on brain autopilot. So whatever unconscious habits that you have, which are unconscious, which means you don't think about them, whatever unconscious habits that you have, they happen for you automatically, and you're not even aware that they are happening. Does that make sense, James? And any questions about that, or any way that I can expound further for everyone else?
It makes sense. Do you have a specific example of an activity in our business?
Well, what I want to talk about, yeah, is let me go a little further here. The next slide actually is at the bottom of the slide. It says, and somebody posted this on Facebook. They said, you don't get your goals, you get your habits. And what this person missed here, and what people don't really understand, is that, and I'm going to slow down here and think my way through this as I share this with you guys, is we never think, what are our mental habits of thinking? Now, there's a guy out there right now, really big speaker, really big, and I have a lot of respect for the guy. I truly do. And he's got a book on habits right now. I haven't read the book, and it's probably a New York Times bestseller. Everything he puts out is a NYT bestseller. I haven't read the book. So what I'm guessing, though, and I don't know yet, but most books and speakers are like this. The book's on habits, and they'll say things like, these are the habits you have to do. And I'll just give you an example. People will say things like, you've got to write down your goals every single morning. So that would be a behavioral habit. Now, to bring this back to James's question, well, how does this play out in our business? If, for example, if you look there about habits of thought, you can have habits relative to how committed you are, your self-integrity, interpretations, and you always interpret the world the same way over and over and over again, or choices, or clarity, or vision, or whatever. But let's say, for example, because see, we learn everything through repetition, including psychological things. Let's say, for example, that a person, and this is actually one of James's strongest points, James, in working with him, is one of the easiest people that I've ever worked with because it's very, very easy. It is ingrained in him unconsciously. It's very easy for him to stay committed to things. But a lot of people, James, as you know, they can't stay committed, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what would you say their habit is about commitment?
What their habit is about commitment?
Their habit about commitment.
Man, I don't know. They talk themselves out of the things they need to do, or they procrastinate, or uh, distract themselves with Facebook or something.
Okay, but plain and simple, what we recognize observing behavior, because behavior comes from thought. So observing their behavior, they have never become a person who has committed thoughts, meaning they have commitment down psychologically as a habit. Does that make sense?
Kind of. So they don't have thoughts about commitment, or they're committed thoughts. That's where I'm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for. Let me back up there. Meaning, whatever they hold unconsciously in their identity and their beliefs about commitment, it doesn't matriculate in the behavior. So they would hold some belief. For example, if you don't see them committed in their external behavior, and by the way, everyone listening or watching, this is the biggest challenge for most people, is to stay committed to something, and especially this day and age because we live in a very instant world. But so, for example, if I ask you what commitment means, you could say three or four things. It means, and I don't want to spend too long here, but you have in your mind that when you get committed, you know what that means to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Most people, so that's your habit. And every time you think about commitment, you think about it in the same way.
Got
Are
it.
you with me there?
I am.
Okay. But when they think about commitment, not being committed to an activity, but at a subconscious level, unconscious level, when they think about commitment, their paradigms are different. Their unconscious paradigms regarding identity, which we'll talk about in a bit, are things like, I don't have to stay committed. It's okay. I quit early. I'm not going to get done anyway. I learned from my dad that I don't have to stay committed. So they're working with different habits relative to the concept of commitment. Does that make sense?
It does, totally.
Okay. So most of you, this is why you can't stay committed to things and you try, but you don't stay committed. And the reason why is because you've got some unconscious paradigm about what commitment is and it isn't, and you've never developed the habit of staying committed to something. Okay, before we move on, that's what I mean there about habits of thought. We have all these thoughts all day long, and no one ever says, you know what, I've got all these thoughts about commitment and self-integrity and interpretation and choice, but tomorrow I'm going to get into new habits and thinking about different ways about every one of those. It never happens. We get up and we think the same way yesterday that we thought today for the most part. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So where most people go sideways is their thought habits are very inconsistent with the outcomes that they want to create. So what I want you to get here, and go back to episode 114 and listen, because I don't want to break it all down because I've got a lot of other stuff I want to cover, but go back and listen to the podcast 114. But what I want you to understand is this. Your success in business is about training yourself, because everything is about training yourself. When you learn to tie your shoes, you learn that through training. When you learn to walk, you learn that through training. That's how the brain learns. So whatever habits you have in your business, you've learned to have many years ago. You've trained yourself to have those habits, and you've trained them through socialization, your parents, and everything else. So you learn the habits. Now you grow up as an adult, not even knowing you have the habits, either productive or counterproductive ones. You bring those habits into your business, and those habits either, like James, when it comes to commitment, build the business or destroy the business. What I want everyone to get is no matter what you have right now in life and in business, you have it because you are in the habit of having it. Does that make sense, James?
It does, totally.
Okay. And anytime you want to add, feel free. Okay, so we've talked about habits. Go back to episode 114. There's some more stuff there on habits, but what you have to get is habits are not just the behavioral habits that you see, writing down your goals every day or whatever people tell you you have to do. What I want you to look at is what are your mental habits? And I'm going to tell you right now, if your business is not doing really, really well, it's because you don't have the mental habits to support the behavior. Because I said earlier, thought precedes behavior. Anything you want to add there, James?
I just want to check in and say a mental habit means just like a thought you continue to think at a subconscious level.
Well, it comes from the unconscious mind because nobody ever says, what am I going to think today consciously or subconsciously, and what are my subconscious thoughts? Okay, so I want you to get that it comes from the identity, which we'll cover in just a minute. But yes, so if your habit, for example, James, and a big one for a lot of people is people are going to judge me. Oh my God, people are going to judge me. What are people going to think about me? Is my content good enough? Right, James? You see that all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get into it every day. It's a habit they're getting into, not even knowing they're getting into it. Does that clarify that question?
It does, and I do want to add one thing that I think was mind blowing for me is you talked about the right habits for business success, but you also see that as the business evolves and grows, the habits need to change. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
that's where
I've
people
got
get
a,
stuck. They have some success and then they plateau.
absolutely. I've got another client of mine that I coach one-to-one. He took his company from zero 3 years ago to $100 million a year right now. And I told him recently, I said, what got you, from there to here is not going to get you to the next level. And we definitely need to work on your paradigms and different things that I advise. And we're not going to go into that now, but that's a great, great point that you're bringing up is that once we create habits, we plateau at those habits. It's like, going to a higher level. And then you plateau there unless you create different habits to take you to a higher level.
Yeah,
That's what you were inferring, right?
correct.
Yes, and that makes sense. And actually, let's go back to you when you started wherever you were before we met, you were doing very well, 7 figures,
Mm-hmm.
but notice at the rate you were growing and notice that the habits of thinking that you were doing every single day.
Yeah.
And then I came in like a bull in a china shop and tore those habits apart, right? The very first call
Yes.
and tore the habits apart. And then you actually saw things in a new way. You started functioning in a new way and started creating new habits, which took your business to a higher level,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Let's go into mind, guys. Mindset. You hear all the time, you got to change your mindset. By the way, when people say they want to change their mindset, what they're really saying is they want to change some habit. If I eat too much sugar, I got to change my mindset so I don't eat any sugar anymore. What the person generally is saying is that they don't want to change their mindset. They want to change their habits. Here is the problem, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, but habits come from the reptilian, older part of the brain. The mindset is prefrontal cortex, thinking part of the brain. Then they set themselves up for a habit battle. The thinking part of the brain says stop the habit. The reptilian part of the brain says I don't want to stop the habit because habits are survival mechanisms. Now the brain fights back and forth, have sugar, not have sugar, have sugar, not have sugar. And the older part of the brain, the reptilian part of the brain that gives us urges, always win. And this is why people fail when they try to break their habits. I do need to move on, but let's look at mindset. The definition of mindset is a person's disposition, attitude, or mood, a person's way of thinking in their opinion, and a mental attitude or inclination. So that's all who we are at an identity level. You never see, for example, the next slide there, you never see people that are mad every day or angry, and one day they're just happy. I mean, they go through their days and they're mad every day. That makes sense, right, James? Or happy, or whatever the characteristic is.
Right.
Whatever their disposition is, they generally have day in and day out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So whatever dispositions and attitudes and moods and thinking and inclinations that you have, these things become habits of thinking, and you work from these every day, not even realizing that what kind of attitude do you have? Most people never think about that, even though we see stuff all the time that says you've got to have a great attitude, and we know that. But what is your attitude? What is your habit of attitude? And what's your attitude every single day? Let's concretize this. Tom Brady. What do you think? And James, do you watch football? Do you not watch? Do you
I
like
don't, and
football?
I did not watch the
Okay.
Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. I love watching Tom Brady. So let me back up here. Back in 2012, I did a program in Boca Raton, and somebody approached me and said, hey, I work with Andy Roddick. And at one point, Andy Roddick was a number one tennis player in the world back around 2010 or so. I don't know, 9, 10, 11, something like that. And the person said, he's really fallen. Would you be interested in working with Andy Roddick? And I started watching some videos on Andy Roddick, and he literally said, he goes, I don't know what happened. I just lost my mental game. And he dropped from number one in the world to like number 18, 19, or 20, whatever it was, the next year. But he literally said, I lost my mental game. Now, I did not end up working with him, but I went and did some research on him. If you watch Tom Brady, and I know there's a lot of football fans, if you watch Tom Brady play, his mental disposition is that he plays to win until the whistle blows and the game is over, period. Anybody that watches football knows that Tom Brady will play the game and he will play hard. I mean, even I've seen him win games, coming back 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of a game. And think back to the Super Bowl last year. So, what do you think his mental disposition is that he plays to win until the very last second? What do you think his disposition is?
What do you mean by disposition? That's his attitude.
Yeah, his attitude, the place that he comes from
Uh,
mentally.
like certain, committed, confident, determined.
Okay, a lot of those things, but we know by watching him that he plays like a champion and he doesn't let what's going on around him affect. Even when he's under pressure, he plays hard and he plays well. But then you look at Andy Roddick, who actually said, I lost my mental game. What was his disposition?
Defeated.
That's exact word I was going to pick. Defeated. I can't get my mojo back or whatever. So I'm asking every one of you right now, look at your business. Your business is a reflection of your mental disposition. And if you don't have what you want in your business, it's because your mental disposition is off. And most of you are playing from what I call resignation, and you're playing from fear. Is I don't think I can have X, Y, Z. And secondly, the fear that I get into because people are going to judge me, people are going to say bad things about me, people are going to post negative comments on Facebook about me, and they get into fear and they let other people shut them down. Does it make sense, James?
It makes sense to me. I just want to check in with the chat box. Does that make sense to
Yep.
you guys?
Check
And
in.
does that resonate with you guys that I won't call anybody out, but if you felt yourself at one point coming from a place of fear or resignation, just type a Y into the chat
Oh,
box.
the box is going to go crazy
Um,
because people
yeah,
get this.
yeah. And look,
I
I've
mean,
been, I've been there myself. I mean, the one thing that people like an illusion that I see a lot of people have is they think like once you've made a certain amount of money, it's happily ever after, right? That you make it and then no more problems. Life is just happy go lucky. But there's a whole new set of problems, never ending. And
there's
then
a whole,
you
yep, there's a
get
whole
to a
other
level,
level.
there's a fear of all these people are looking at me. Like, what if I fail? What if I make a mistake now? And blah blah blah. And that comes in. That resignation can come in really fast, really hard.
Yeah, and I'm not one to, because I've been there before also. Those are not places I go this day and age. And I used to think, oh, is my content good enough? Well, James, look how many downloads we had of this podcast. I think my content's good enough,
Yeah.
you know? But there used to be a time where I'm like, oh my gosh, am I good enough? Am I good as that person? Are people, and I don't go there anymore. And by the way, that's a mental habit and that's all created in the brain. No time to get into it now, but people never get up in the morning and say, you know what? I think I'll get in the fear today. Nothing to do at 3 o'clock. I'll get in the fear. Well, that's all. It's all brain based.
Yeah.
It comes from the reptilian part of the brain, and then it controls most people. Unfortunately, got to keep moving. Okay, so we'll talk about identity. The identity is the fact of being who or what a person is. And your identity, plain and simple, is your self image, and you will never operate outside of your self image. So if your identity, which we looked at the triangle earlier, if your identity is I am poor, I grew up poor, money's hard to come by. And on this call, I'm going to tell you right now, 80% of people listening right now or watching have money issues. I'm telling you, plain and simple. And I used to also, I grew up poor. But people have money issues and they have really bad relationships with money. So people can go out and do things all day long and they can bust their hiney and they can bust their rear end to do everything they need to do to grow their business. But guess what? What do you think happens when money starts rolling in if they've got an unconscious money, a negative money identity? What do you think happens?
It rolls right out.
It rolls right out or they shut themselves right down.
Yeah.
You know, I marvel looking at myself. Literally, I stand back and I just watch myself go through my days. And I'm like, how did I even get through that day? It happened completely on autopilot. And to prove that to you guys, how many of you have driven across town? You're in your head. You get across town and you don't even know how you got there. Right, James?
Yeah.
That's the brain. That's the brain and your unconscious paradigms. What I want you to get here is it's easy to do what you are and it's hard to do what you are not. So that means at the unconscious level, if you literally have like really good paradigms about money, it's going to be very easy for you to make money. But at the unconscious level, if you have really bad paradigms about money, no matter how much you do, it's still going to be very hard for you to make money because you'll self-sabotage yourself. James, does that make sense?
It does. And you said something I just want to reiterate. It was so powerful is that we never operate out of our self image.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. For example, here, just very, very quickly, let me think of a good metaphor here. But let's say I'm trying to think of something that would be. Appropriate. Okay. Here's one. I absolutely refuse, under any circumstances, unless I was starving somewhere, I refuse to eat oysters. I mean, they're filters that filter garbage from the bottom of the ocean. Now, James, I don't know. Do you eat oysters?
I really don't, but I've no. I mean, I'm kind of neutral to them.
Okay, I'm not kind of neutral. There's no way in hell I'm going to eat an oyster unless I'm starving for food.
Yeah.
But notice that's part of my unconscious identity and belief system. I am a person who does not eat oysters. Now, that's part of my identity. I'm not going to operate outside of that and say, you know what, it's Tuesday. It's my birthday today, and I turned 53 years old today, which, by the way, guys, is true. It's my birthday today, and I think I'm going to treat myself with a dozen oysters today. Ain't going to happen. It ain't gonna happen. I'm telling you right now, it ain't gonna happen.
So I
It's
want to check
part of
in.
my
Is your identity is all the things that we say about ourselves, like, oh, I'm so this and I'm so that all just
yeah.
bundles into our identity.
Those are meanings about ourselves. Yes, I'm not good at math. I can't make money. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. Part of that's brain based. I won't go into it now, but my project manager, Nikki, her brain is wired to like have process. My brain is wired to have no process. I feel sorry for her because she was working late last night getting ready for tonight. Whereas if Jim had a process brain and that was part of his identity, he'd have been ready for this webinar a week ago instead of 4 o'clock today. So part of that is brain based. But my identity is that I'm also a very general thinker, which is brain based. I think in big pictures, not details. But when we say things, I am blank. Whatever follows is what our identity is. I'm good at math. I'm bad at math. I'm good at money. I'm not good at money. I can never get ahead, which there's an identity about that. I can get ahead. Everything about you comes from your identity. And what I want you to get is that your self-identity controls your success as an entrepreneur. You guys have to get that. Because you're all listening to all the other speakers. You got to work until your eyeballs bleed and all this kind of nonsense. And so you're thinking you got to work till your eyeballs bleed. But if your identity, and you may have the identity of a hard worker, like I'm a hard worker, but I grew up poor. So I used to actually work hard and still be poor. Why? Because I learned to be poor because my father and my mother taught me how to be poor because I always heard money doesn't grow on trees and we're not rich. So even as an entrepreneur, if your identity, I don't care how many seminars you go to, I don't care who you talk to or what trainings you go to. If your identity is poor, you'll never be successful as an entrepreneur. You can't be because it's not consistent with who you are at a core level. James, does that make sense?
It does. And I want to throw out two that, which I'm assuming are identities or descriptions of our self-image that I hear all the time. The first is I am a newbie. And the other is, especially someone like taking a course or a program, I am behind.
Okay.
Those go into self-image and identity, like the I am a newbie.
Behind is an assessment, but a newbie is an identity. Behind is an evaluation relative to what? Where? How are you calculating that? What's your interpretation? But when a person says I'm a newbie, they're interpreting that I'm brand new, which could be. But I know that you've seen before people that are brand new and they take off like a scalded cat and they just tear it up. Yeah. That's happened before, right?
Absolutely.
And then you see people, another person, well, I'm a newbie. And 4 years later, it's like they're still riding on a donkey trying to get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, anytime we say I am blank, that is a reflection of self-identity. So be very careful with what you're identifying with and as, because that will determine the outcomes that you get in your business.
That's
so
huge.
I want to ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's huge. That last line.
That's why that's why we're going to ask this question, guys. What identity would I need to create or need to have? Sorry, a little typo there. Nikki, you missed that, I think. What identity would I need to have to be a successful or to have a successful business? What identity would I need to have? Think about that, guys. And that's your homework. I'm going to move on here in a second. But for example, when you look at people that are really, really successful, their identity is not the same self-image and identity as somebody who's not successful at all, right?
Yeah.
You look at Shark Tank, you look at Mark Cuban. What do you think his identity is?
Oh, man. I don't know. Because
He's a bit cocky, right?
Yeah.
He's a bit cocky. You notice that. He's a bit arrogant. But his identity is I can do it. If you watched him, I'll find a way to do it. He's a very quick thinker, and he likes people that are innovative and think very, very fast. And he also makes decisions very, very quickly. So if you look at his identity, who is he? He's taken that identity and put it into play in business. So what I want to ask every one of you right now, this will change your life when you get this, is what identity, what I need to have to create the business that I want. Very quickly here, and I admire this guy, Brendan Burchard. We have different paths. I say we have different karma. You look at his identity. What's his identity versus Tony Robbins' identity versus used to be Wayne Dyer when he was on the planet and what his mission was? They're all coming from different identities that create different outcomes. And whatever identity you hold will absolutely 100% airtight determine the outcome that you have. Part of James's identity is that he knows how to stay committed, and that in itself drives his business. Does that make sense, James?
It does, but to answer this question, do we put it in? Is there a certain way to answer it? I know I'm the. It's also part of my identity that I'm the over analyzer. But like, is it a word? Is it a phrase, or is it just like a list of attributes and characteristics?
Well, the list of attributes and characteristics amalgamate and make one unconscious identity, because we have identities about all kinds of things. Like, for example, my identity about singing, I can't sing well. But other places I can do things really well. So we can textualize the identity in different places. What you want to look at is this, because we got to move on,
Sure.
is what identity do you need? What characteristics would you need, which will turn into behaviors? We'll get into characteristics in just a minute. What characteristics would you need to be very successful in business? That's where people want to think from. And if you're not really successful, it's because you don't have the characteristics first. Does that make sense?
That absolutely does, yeah.
Okay, as you know, we got a lot to cover, so let's keep on going. Let's get into mind here, and I've got to slow down here. We may be running about 8 to 10 minutes behind the hour, so I'll try to condense here a little bit.
Guys, checking with you guys. Is that okay if we go a little over the top of the hours? You guys just type in a 1 or something to me and let us know. I'll kind of get like your guys' permission that we do that. Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of 1s, and I absolutely keep going. Yes, please.
Okay, all right, let's keep on going then. Hey, you guys, wherever you are, grab a glass of wine, whatever you want, sit back, relax, take notes, and let's keep on going. Okay, go back to episode 141. I want to recapitulate that episode here just a bit visually, because there's something that I'm going to show everyone visually that will make episode 141 go, aha, I really, really get it. A problem can never be solved at a level that was created by Albert Einstein. Here's where most people go awry. Okay. Wherever you are in life right now, you're the one using your mental resources and thoughts and everything else and your habits that created where you are. That makes sense, right, James? I mean, you're the one who created your life, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. But if you're upside down, who created that?
I did.
Okay. So if a person's upside down and they're the ones who created it, how do they presuppose to get right side up when they're the ones who got themselves upside down? Because if they could have gotten themselves right side up the first time, they would have, which means they don't have the thought capacity to get themselves right side up, because where they are is a reflection of their thoughts already. That's a lot that I said, but basically, if you're upside down, you're the one who created it. If you're upside down every single year and you're the one who keeps creating that, how do you think you're going to get right side up unless you go to a higher level of thinking? That made sense, right, James?
Or call Jim.
Or call me, exactly. And or work with us, and we'll get this done for you and help you with this. But that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
This is why so many people fail with their goal setting, is they set their goals from who they are right now, and who I am right now has never created any more, but I'm going to set goals for more. But you've never been that person and don't know how to be that person, therefore you never reach the goals. And I'm telling you, I know this, year after year after year after year, people barely crack their goals, and they basically stair step themselves to success. So every one of you right now, I'm going to slow down on the slide. Whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter. This is neurology and this is cognitive psychology. You're working at the top of your skill set right now, mentally. James, the first time we started talking and we started coaching together, you're not the same person today you were then, are you?
No, you warned me of that too.
I told you I'm going to change your life. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to change you, but I'm going to help you transform your life. But you never thought that day, the very first day, and there were some things you were into mentally. You never thought to yourself, you know what? I'm at the top of my mental skill set right now. That never crossed your mind, did it?
I don't think it ever crosses anyone's mind. Or I mean, but it definitely didn't cross mine.
Exactly. And every one of you listening right now, you are at the top of your skill set. Let's keep on going. And that's why you got people like me helping you. And thank you for that opportunity, by the way. So very quickly, let's move through some of this a little faster, then I'll slow down at some really salient points here. Is hierarchy of being. We function, we exist in 3 ways. We exist at the level of mind, level of consciousness, level of thought. Let's take these 3 apart. First is the level of mind. James, you're in Laguna, I'm in Dallas. We can't see each other. We're 1,500 miles apart, but I know that we're part of the United States, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're both part of the same thing. Well, the same thing, we're all part of the all. This here is space picture. This is the Hubble telescope. This is, I think they call it deep field. Even though these are, I don't know, millions of light years or trillions of light years or billions of light years away, we're still part of every bit of this. In religion, they may call it God. In quantum physics, they call it the quantum field. Um, and the Kabbalion, which was written by Hermes, he was a hermit. He taught Hermeticism, which is ancient wisdom. Hermes wrote a book called the Kabbalion, Kyblion. No one knows when it was written, but it's the seven cosmic laws. And the first cosmic law is that the universe is mind. So I want you to get, and I'll show you a little more in just a second, but you're part of the all. Let me keep on going. Second is consciousness. So I'm not going to interact as much, James. I want to keep on going here, but consciousness. When a person has a heart attack, they fall down on the floor, they're unconscious, paramedics come in, boom, they shock them, they defibrillate them. Why do they shoot electricity into them?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. Because we are. I don't know. I have no idea.
We're electromagnetic, we're energy,
There we go.
right? We have consciousness running through us, which is energy. With no consciousness, we're a dead bag of skin. Let me keep on going. I'll tie it together. The lowest level of our being is thought. And this is where most people live. Thought. Mortgage, date night, kids, pay the nanny, pay for daycare, pay for college, pay for gas, mortgage, rent, job, date night, divorce, getting married, all these kind of things. Most people get into the lowest level of thought, and then they run a cycle of thought. Let me show you what I mean. But before I do that, let me recap what we just covered. Is everything that we experience in life is a function of three things. It's a function of mind, that we're alive. It's a function of consciousness, that we are aware that we're alive. And it's a function of thoughts. Now, here's the thing. Most people aren't even conscious that they're even alive. I mean, almost no one wakes up and says, you know what? I'm aware that I am a conscious thinking being today. We don't do that. People open their eyes in the morning, and the first thing they do is get their cell phone and they start reading their email, and they start thinking about all the things they have to do today, and they actually get on the hamster wheel and run their entire day just thought after thought after thought after thought. That'll make more sense as we go. Huge takeaway, and I know that I've got a lot of feedback on this from you guys, but I'm going to demonstrate this to you guys even more tonight. You are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. What most people do, though, when I asked James on the podcast, you ever been mad before? And James says, yes, I've been mad. And I said, no, you've never been mad. You have been a human being, which is a thinker of thoughts, having mad thoughts. Anytime that you're trapped in business, you're trapped in thoughts. Anytime you're trapped anywhere in life, you are trapped in your thoughts without even recognizing you are the thinker of the thought. And as the thinker of the thought, you can change the thought to anything that you want. Does that make sense, James?
Yeah, is that the same as like when someone says I'm stuck?
You're not stuck. You're a human being who's having stuck thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense.
It does.
Right? Okay. Let me show some people here. Let me show everybody what I call horizontal and vertical thinking, which we did out at BBD. What most people do is they get into horizontal thinking. One thought can lead to 100 other thoughts. And let's say that one thought is I don't have any money. That's one thought that people start with, and they get into, I don't have any money, I'm broke, I can't pay my bills, I can't pay my car payment, I don't have any money, I can't pay rent, I can't do this, I can't do that. And, James, I'm sure many years ago you might have been familiar with that. You're not today, but everyone watching and listening, you're familiar with that. The one thought that I lost my job or doesn't have any money turns into 100 other thoughts, and then it becomes a thought party, and people stay there for days and weeks and months. That makes sense, right, James?
Thought party. Yes, I love it.
It's a thought party. Yeah, it's a bad thought party. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you guys where you want to start going is recognizing that anytime you're having a counterproductive negative thought or feeling, it's your thinking that creates, it's the thought that creates the feeling. So we feel bad because our emotions follow our thoughts, and we never step back and say, you know what? I'm the thinker of the thought. Being the thinker of the thought, I have dominion over my thoughts, and I can choose different thoughts. Let me bring this home for all of you guys. 432 Park Avenue. This is a Google, what do they call it? The Google little map thing that drives around all over the U.S., the Google Mobile or whatever.
Yeah.
Google camera. This is at street level, 432 Park Avenue, New York City. You're looking south here on Park Avenue. You look down, you see the MetLife building. that's in the way there, that's right in the center of Park Avenue. We are at ground level, 432 Park Avenue. Everyone watching and listening, and James, what can you see right now?
I can see a bus, a bunch of cars, some people on the sidewalk, street signs, stoplights.
Canyon of buildings. Canyon of buildings. That's right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Can you see the next street over?
No.
Okay. James, let's go in that building. Let's walk into 432 Park Avenue, which is the tallest apartment building in Manhattan. Let's go to the roof. When we do that, we go all the way to the roof. This is an actual picture from the roof. And this is what we see. Same address.
Hmm.
But notice when we go to a higher level, we can now see everything. We can see the Empire State Building. We can see the World Trade Center. We can see the Chrysler Building. We can see Jersey and Queens and Manhattan, even Staten Island, and even the MetLife Building right in front of us. We're at the same physical address, but now we have different interpretations because we're seeing things from a higher level. Every one of you listening and watching right now, you're probably starting to realize that when you actually use the thought formula that I just gave you, you remove yourself from ground level, and now you're raising yourself up, saying that I'm at a higher level now. I'm thinking at a higher level. And because I'm thinking at a higher level, I can choose to think and look at any direction that I want to look. Does that make sense, James?
Yes. Completely.
This has changed your life, and I know because we've spent some time together. Anything that you want to add about this?
Well, yes, I do. I want to reiterate, first of all, the phrase you said really quickly: emotions follow thought. And just last night, Chelsea and I went out to dinner, and there was a mistake with the hostess that was seating us, and we put our name in, and then three or four other parties got put at a table, and then we had to wait. And the
Yeah.
first place I went was anger or angry thoughts. I mean, the emotion
Yeah.
of anger. I was angry, and I was
I'm
able.
here first, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, there was this like, and that was the old habit as
Yeah.
of like, oh my goodness, I've been wronged, and now this is a waste of time, blah blah blah. And I was able to stop it immediately and go up and just see exactly what was going on. And I realized I was just choosing a thought of this, she's wasting my time, and this is a waste of time, and now I'm going to have to wait longer. I'm not going to get blah blah blah, thought after thought. This thought party. And as soon as I
Yep.
just stopped that, I was like, I'm not going to let this ruin a wonderful date night with my wife. And the rest of the night was happy and pleasant, and we got sat, and it was no problem.
And so you recognize you went to a higher level as being a conscious being and thinking that you're the thinker of your thought, right?
Yes.
Now, notice what he said, the H word. And I've told James, and James actually, that really, I'm thrilled I can assist you with this in our time. James has learned to be happy every day. And that's where he holds his thoughts. Most people are trapped in, I can't pay rent, I can't pay rent, I can't pay rent, which is a thought. When you go to a higher level and you realize that you're the thinker of your thoughts, choose any thought that you want. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lot more effective to choose a thought to be happy than it is, I can't pay my rent.
Yeah.
Right, James?
Absolutely. And it was just like, I think the biggest thing is like, my wife would not want to be with me at dinner if I'm upset or I'm angry.
Grumpy,
So
right?
how
Yeah.
often do we take our stress and the problems and the stuff we're dealing with at work, and we take it into the rest of our lives, and it affects the rest of our life and the people in our life. And
Yeah, and you picked up on that, James. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know
no,
we've got a lot to cover, but you picked up on that, guys, is that anytime that you're feeling bad about something, your feelings are always preceded by your thoughts. Nobody actually has um, if you're feeling bad or frustrated or angry, I guarantee you, it's called cybernetics, is that you're having a thought that precedes that feeling. So anytime you're in a negative feeling, you're making interpretations that are first preceded by thoughts. You want to feel better, think better. Okay. So you're not your thoughts, you are the thinker of your thoughts. So here's the formula, then we're going to move on to ways of being and the ways that you have to be to create the kind of business that you want. So the master thought formula, you guys might want to take a screenshot of this, is a couple of steps. My thoughts are an illusion, because they are, because they're simply just fleeting through your brain. What's real is my ability to think. I am the thinker of my thoughts. I move my attention to blank. So what James did last night is he recognized that people were seated before him. So he had some thoughts of, well, this is, BS or whatever. Then he recognized, wait, this is all nonsense. This is stuff I'm making up in my head. And then he recognized I'm the thinker of my thoughts. And then he recognized I can choose to think different things. And he moved his attention, and he did every bit of that paradigm by thinking from the level of a conscious being, not a thought happening over and over and over again. We're going to move on, James, because I want to get into being, and we want to respect people's time and the time we agree to. But does that make sense?
It does. And this happened for me in like 35 seconds. That's all it took.
Boom, and it's done, right? And then here's the thing, guys. Once you practice this, it becomes very easy to shift yourself out of any kind of counterproductive state. Okay, characteristics of being. What does that mean? Being. What I want to show you here very quickly is characteristics. And we said in the ad copy something along the lines of the mindsets that you needed, or what did we say there? The 5 most effective characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. We've got 6 here, but the characteristics and ways of being are being committed, being responsible, being integral, being courageous, making the right choices, which is being a person mindful and getting off from autopilot, and being a visionary. One of my coaches said to me that success is purely a matter of character. Almost every one of you on this, watching this now, you think success is a matter of what you do and going out and working till your eyeballs bleed and everything else. No, that's not what creates success. What creates this success is the characteristics that drive the behavior. So, and these things all come from your identity. At an identity level, at a self-image level, James is a person that's very, very committed. That is who he is, which is his identity. So if any of these are missing, and especially if you're missing the identity of being committed or being responsible or being self-integral or being courageous, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have a hard time building your business. Also in the copy, we had something along the lines of how to increase your productivity by 400%. Michael Jensen at Harvard University, he's a business professor emeritus at Harvard, did years of studying business professionals. And what they found is this, and they find that it's also a very overlooked characteristic, and we talked about this in podcast 114, self-integrity. They found, in doing years of studies, that when people would keep their word to themselves about what they were going to do, their productivity went up anywhere between 1 and 400%, given no more input. Meaning simply keeping your word to yourself can increase your productivity and your income anywhere from 1 to 400% simply by keeping your word to yourself. But James, you've been doing this a long time. What amount of people do you think in business keep their word to themselves about what they're going to do to build their business?
Like the smallest fraction ever, like 5
A very,
to 10%.
yeah. And this is one of the reasons we had in the ad copy is that the one little shift, that even in itself is one little shift. Thinking from the inside out is what we were getting at with that line in the ad copy. But thinking from the inside out, from the identity level, from the habit level, from the thought level, from the conscious choice level, those shifts will change the game for you. Okay, so you can control your mind when it becomes when you control your mind, it then becomes possible to become these characteristics. And that means even getting off automatic pilot. That means actually now getting conscious about the choices that you're making. Even, for example, when you're making choices about commitment, are you even actually talking to yourself about the choices that you're making? Are you working from just thought, I'm uncommitted, I'm uncommitted, I'm uncommitted? Or are you working from, you know what? I can make choices about my level of commitment. Modes of performance. You guys have heard me say this before. Have, do, be versus be, do, have. Most people work from have, do, be. And that model is if I had more money, I could do more things and I could be successful. If I had more time, I could do more things and I could be more successful. If I had more money, I could do all these kind of things and I could do all these kind of things and I could run Facebook ads and then I'm going to be a really successful online entrepreneur. That's a backwards and broken model. Why? Because if you don't have it in the first place, you're not going to do anything different. Therefore, you're never going to be something different. Therefore, you'll never have it. The model that you want and you must work from is be, do, have. Who do I have to be, which are characteristics of being, which we just went over. And those are just some of many. Who do I have to be to do what I need to do to have what I want? And I'll show you a question in just a second that I ask myself. So the great myth of doing, and this is where James has made significant transformation in his life, is James used to think when I met him, I've got to keep doing more, but I want to grow my business. I'll even show you how James's values were conflicted and he didn't even know it at a subconscious level. And these are things that I can help you guys with. Is the great myth of doing is that I'll do more and I'll have more. And James, you mentioned that earlier. Everybody thinks if they go out and do more stuff, then they're going to have more money, right?
Not only that, but then when I wanted more, I wasn't allowing myself to have more because I had no more time or energy to do more.
No more bandwidth, right?
No more bandwidth, yeah.
So you were working by circumstance, and I'll show you guys what that means in just a minute. Okay. So for most of you think wanting more equals doing more. But see what happens, and most people don't get this, is that doing is a finite resource. You've only got so many hours in a day. You can only do so much in a day. So then what happens is because you're working by a finite resource, meaning I'm going to go do more, you have literally put a finite cap on your business growth. I'll show you in just a minute what we did to release James's. So doing more is not sustainable because what's going to happen is you will burn out. You might get short-term results, but you're going to burn out. So what I want you to get is that being, who you're being, characteristics and ways of being are the genesis of creating in your business. And if you're not getting, I'm going to slow down here and say this even slower. If you're not creating what you want, it's because you're first not being the person and the characteristics that you need to be. If that doesn't sink in, then I don't know what to say. But you're all trying to go out and trying to do things, and it doesn't come from there because my coach will always say is that your doing is only as effective as the being doing the doing. So whatever you want to go do will only be as effective as your characteristics of being. So if you want to go out and build a huge business, but one of your characteristics is that you can't stay committed, good luck building the huge business. So a master question that I told you I'd get to, everyone write this down. When I'm looking at things, I ask myself this question: what am I committed to, and who do I have to be to make it happen? What am I committed to, and who or how do I have to be to make it happen? And guys, my root word, which I help people discover in coaching with me, my root word for me is a couple of them, but my root word is responsibility. I must, which we'll talk about in a second a little more, I must be responsible for the outcomes that I want to create in my business. Okay, James, before we actually go into an opportunity for people that want to take their business to the next level, anything else you want to add here?
No, I mean, just that this is fantastic, and I just love how you boil it down into these really simple and clear questions. I'd love to just get some feedback from you guys. Have you
Yeah.
found value in this so far? I'd love to hear some feedback. Any ahas or like breakthroughs or light bulbs. I just want to check in with our attendees. We've got a ton of people, and I just want to like share some of the things people are saying. Um,
And
Michelle.
we'll take questions too. We'll take questions at the end also. Just
Okay, yeah,
right.
let's do questions at the end, but I just want to hear say yes, yes, amazing, hell yes, superb. This has been so eye opening, amazing stuff. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Love it all, blowing my mind. I'm just here to buy something else from Sherry. He is right on target. This is a paradigm shift. This has been so amazing, Jim, and I hope everyone listening knows that or can see that I'm just like a total testament to just the results that I've been able to get from a short time of working with Jim. And I mean, you guys ain't seen nothing yet. It's only
Oh yeah.
February 2018. So
And we've just tonight we've literally, I mean, literally just touched the tip of the iceberg. So your big thoughts tonight, guys, are your brain decides for you. Whether you believe that or not, research has proven that it does by Nobel Prize winning scientists. You actually, whatever you want to create, you have to have the subconscious habits to create that. Your mindset is generally never about mindset, which is prefrontal cortex. Your mindset, basically, when we say that, we're saying that we want to create different behaviors, which come from habits. Subconscious identity, everything that you do and don't do, like me not eating oysters, comes from your subconscious identity. Stories you tell yourself. I took that slide out because I knew it'd run over, but what you tell yourself all day long in terms of stories is what you will create. Your stories are all made up BS in your mind. What you can and can't do is literally nothing more than a story. And again, no time to go into that. Levels of thinking. You always want to think from the level of a conscious thinker, meaning I am conscious, I'm a conscious being, and I can consciously choose my thoughts. And then characteristics of being. Your ways of being and your characteristics will determine your success, not what you do, because what you do will be affected by your characteristics. So the reason most people are stuck is because no vision, no clarity. People work from their past instead of possibility. I can't tell you the amount of people that work from what they thought they could do last year and try to do a little bit better this year. People think that doing things grows their business when it doesn't, because the doing is only effective as the being. A lack of self-integrity is a massive one. If you don't master self-integrity, and by the way, guys, I'm a human being on this planet just like you guys. I've got my own challenges. I've got my own things that I'm working on. But I can tell you, if you don't work on the self-integrity, nothing else is going to work for you. If you're not 100% responsible, which we'll talk about in just a minute, for your outcomes, it ain't going to happen. And then you're getting into chronic mediocrity relative to who you could be. A lack of understanding of commitments and values. Very, very quickly there, guys, I want to share something with you about James. James, this isn't really all that private. This will help people. James's highest value, which those of you that want to work with me after tonight, James's highest value is freedom. It's the number one thing that he values at a subconscious level. He has to have freedom. And James, if you don't have freedom, how does it make you feel?
Trapped, stuck, frustrated.
Exactly. So in the first call with James, what I started understanding is that his highest subconscious value is freedom. But he also is committed to growing his business. Now, here's the thing where his commitment and his unconscious values were butting heads. I've never even told James this. He doesn't know this. So he's seeing this for the first time. So because he's committed to growing his business, he's committed to working harder and putting in more hours. But here's the thing. The more hours that he works and puts in, the less freedom that he had. So even though he didn't realize that one part of his personality was committed and working really, really, really hard, it literally eroded away at the part of the personality that actually valued freedom. He was taking freedom away from himself by building his business, and now he was in a bind. So he was at a place where he was getting to, I don't know if burnout's the word, but James, do you see how you were trapped between commitment and freedom? Because the more you were committed to growing your business, the less freedom you had, which is the thing that you valued most.
It was like a constant trade-off, and it is an absolutely like operating from my circumstances totally.
Yeah,
and I don't think I'm alone. I think other people here can resonate with. I'm
right.
not the only one doing that or was doing that.
No, correct. And I busted him out of that, and now look where he is.
Yeah.
Okay. False interpretations in the stories we interpret all day long, little to no understanding of mind. I bet you, even though you've heard it again, you guys really aren't getting your mind around yet how the subconscious mind works. I want to help you guys with that. Destructive and unconscious habits that sabotage you, and incongruent unconscious identity, which means no matter how much you want to be rich, if you ain't rich unconsciously, you're not going to be rich in your behavior. And these are all ways of being. So here, I want you to ask yourself, what do you want in 2018? And I want you to recognize that the skills that didn't get you to your goals in 2017, they're not going to get you to your goals in 2018. You have to go to a higher level, like Einstein said, of skill level and function. And every one of you, whether you think you are, you aren't, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, you are. You're trapped at the level you're performing at now. So an expensive question for you. What is the price that you have paid and are still paying for not knowing what you learned tonight and not mastering this in the future? And I'll tell you what that price is. Let's say that I cut you loose right now. I cut your limitations loose. Boom, I let them go. And you go from making $100,000 to $200,000 a year, or 4 or 5 or whatever, and you double your income. And you've been doing this for 5 years. So we make you an additional $200,000 a year, but you've been doing this 5 years. You've just lost $1 million over the past 5 years, not knowing what you're learning tonight. Let's say you do it 10 more years and you don't cut yourself loose. Well, 10 more years at another 200,000 is another $2 million that you've lost, literally, by not knowing that you have to work from identity and characteristics and ways of being and unconscious habits. So right now, guys, you've only got one of two choices. You can choose a new life. You can stay with your old life. And I also want you to understand that doing nothing is defaulting to your old way. Something somebody sent me last night. He said, I hired an E-Myth coach. I hired Tony Robbins coaches. I've done Brendan Burchard events. I've hired Wake Up Warrior coaches. I've done a lot to improve myself tactically and psychologically. And he's still stuck and he's reaching out to me for help. I'm not knocking any of those people because I think they're all great people doing great things and helping people. But many times people go to those events and they stay stuck because of this right here. And this applies to every one of you. So let's say you go to a big event and you go there and they give you all this really good content, like even you're getting tonight, about how to break through your limitations and everything else. Let's take money, for example. You go to an event and they tell you that you can be a millionaire and you can make $1 million a year. But at your context subconsciously, you're saying, meaning your unconscious values and identities and subconscious mind, you're poor. No matter how much content we pour in about how rich you can be, it's not going to work. Why? Because at your subconscious level, you're poor. So no matter how much you even want to believe, until you change the subconscious paradigms, nothing else will change for you. And I want to help you with that. And I'm going to show you what we can do to help you with that. And here's where a lot of people on tonight's call will fall, is in the self-deception. Many of you erroneously, and I mean this kindly but foolishly, and I have been there before, you think that if you do nothing different, that you're going to be able to get to where you want to go, yet you haven't been able to get there already. That is foolish and self-deceptive thinking. And like I said, I have been there before. Until you go to a higher level of function and evolution of your being, you will stay exactly where you are. And you don't need to hear that from me. Look at your past history. So this is what James and I want to offer you. James approached me a while back and said, Jim, I want everybody to have what I have. By the way, James, you want to add anything so far before I go into this?
No, that was great. I've
Good.
been there as well, driven by self deception. I know what that's like.
Yeah, and we think somebody like the entrepreneur wizard is going to come along and just wave a magic wand, shazam, and your business grows.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to offer all of you guys the same thing, the same program that James has been through. But we're going to do it in a group. And I don't have a lot of time, but I want to cover these. Week number one, we're going to go through clarity and vision. I'm going to help you get clarity as to what you really want at an unconscious level, and we're going to set your vision. Week number two is ways of being. We're going to talk about unconscious stories that you tell yourself, and we're going to discover a senior driver for you that will drive your characteristics and ways of being. Week number three is subconscious values, meaning nobody ever gets up and says, what are my values today? Like James's highest value is freedom. We're going to discover what your subconscious values are so you'll know where to work from in your business. Week number four is staying committed. What is your level of commitment? There's homework each and every week to help you not just listen to me, but I walk you through homework to help you discover your subconscious blind spots. And every one of these categories will discover your unconscious self-sabotaging blind spots. Week number four is getting you off autopilot. Week number five, by the way, you're going to take a survey with me week number six, and that's self-integrity and that's self-awareness and understanding what level of self-integrity and self-awareness you have in your life about your self-integrity. Week number seven, we're going to stop, we're going to progress. Where are you right now in terms of our time together? Week number eight is we're going to talk about responsibility, and you're going to learn about what responsibility is, what it's not, where you're responsible in your life, where you're a victim, not even knowing that you're a victim. Week number nine is interpretations. What false interpretations are you making about yourself? We're interpreting all day long, not even knowing that we're interpreting. And then the last 3 weeks are about relationship. And the reason why is that pretty much all of your business growth is going to come through relationship. Week number 10 is about the environments that you work in and who are you being in relationships. Week number 11 is giving versus receiving in relationships. And week number 12 is interpersonal skills. And then week number 13, we'll tie it all together. James, let me just show them the rest here, and then you can hop in here.
Go for it.
But let me ask you guys this. As you're looking at all this and what you've learned today, what would be the value to your business for bringing all of this into your realm of mastery? What would that equate in terms of dollars to you or equate back to you? And what value would that be for your business? That's where I want you to start thinking from. Next slide here, 1 second. I've got multiple, there we go. So what you're going to get is 13 weeks of live coaching calls. My one-to-one coaching rate is $800 an hour, guys. Sorry, I had one-to-one there. It's $800 an hour. You're going to get 13 weekly live coaching calls. You're going to get weekly transformational homework that I request be done before the call. You're going to get the weekly call audio from the call. You're going to get weekly Facebook Live, which I'll be in the Facebook group every single day. And I'll do a live every single week where you guys can interact with me to reinforce what you're learning. You're going to get daily text, which I'm going to reinforce what you're learning on a daily basis through your coaching with me. So week number one, we're talking about actually vision. So every day you'll get text about vision to keep it right in front of you. You're going to get my private email. Please use that judiciously. I'm not your private one-to-one 24-hour coach, but if you really need me, email me. And then I'm going to give you a 100% 90-day guarantee. The only caveat is, which I'll show you, is you must go through the entire program. And if you can say that I haven't changed your life and you can demonstrate that you've done the work, then just ask for a complete refund and we'll refund your investment. What others are saying, James, very quickly, what is your awesome verbal testimony, even though you've said it all night long? What's the one thing you want them to take away?
Yeah, well, you said it yourself. You said 3 words when you were describing what it's like working with a client. You cut them loose. And that is exactly the best way I could describe my experience is that we don't know how much we hold ourselves back. And you have
Yeah.
a gift and an ability to unleash us, to cut us loose. And that is
Thank you. And
invaluable.
yeah. And Brandon once asked me, he goes, Jim, what would your USP be if you were going to, with this? And I'd say my USP, what I do is I free people from themselves.
Mm.
Very, very quickly here, Drew Canoli, some of you guys might have heard of him. Jim has mentored me from the very first day I started my company. He's formally coached me for a while now. I've gone from 1 to 80 full-time employees. Below, I've spent tens of thousands on coaches. And by far, Jim is the very best coach I've had ever, and is one of the best coaches on the planet. That's Drew Canoli. He owns a multi, $1 million business. Very, very quickly, I'm not going to read all this. This is from a real estate agent. Basically, she said she didn't have any money. Her house was going into foreclosure. She knew she needed to get into coaching with me. And the second month in coaching, she'd already had 6 listings. The month prior, she was going into foreclosure and had no money. So my job, as James said, is to break you free with all those 13 weeks. You will not finish the program the person that you started the program. You will finish the program a completely different person. One more here, Jane Parsons. She's a top real estate agent in the U.S. Other than John Maxwell, no one has made a greater impact on our business than Jim. I'm telling you, I am thrilled to be compared at the level of John Maxwell. So the investment is this. It's a one-time payment of $19.97 or 3 payments of $6.97. Here are the links right here, jameswedmore.com/Jim Fortin. And James, are you guys going to be putting those links in the chat box?
Yes. Give me a moment. I will put it in the chat box right now. And
take your time.
You want to let them know that that's a separate link if they want to do PayPal.
Yeah, separate link. You can do payments with the jameswedmore.com/Jim. With jameswedmore.com, Jim PayPal, that one will not accept payments. So if you want to do payments, do the jameswedmore.com/Jim. A fast acting bonus for the first 10 that register, you will get a 1-hour call with me. James, you're going to laugh. I thought about 20 people, and Nikki this morning, she messaged me and she goes, are you kidding? My project manager, she goes, you don't have time to get me on your calendar. How are you going to get 20 people on your calendar?
Yeah.
She goes, you're not doing that. So for the first 10 people, you get a 1-hour call. Guys, we had over 2,000 people register for this webinar, and we're capping registration at 50 people. Literally, at 50 people, the doors will close. So what I want you to get is you're either going to invest $2,000 in the next 90 days of transforming your life with me. And I want to slow down here and I want to talk to you from the heart. Even though it's group, I'm going to work with, I have a vested interest in the success of every one of you. One of my downfalls is, like Nikki said this morning, she goes, are you kidding? You're not going to do 20 people. One of my downfalls, which is part of my identity, is your success is my success. I care about your success. You're not just a number to me. You're not just a dollar sign. You're not just somebody, in my coaching program. See, because what you're going to learn also in our time, I work from what makes me matter. And what makes me matter is that I change lives. Because when I change your life and everyone on this that wants to go into coaching, you're going to go out and change other lives, and we change the world like a ripple effect. And James can tell you, because he's the same, I care about your success. So you can invest in $19.97 now, or you're going to continue losing money. And I'm just telling you the truth. Stop getting into your self-deception. You can invest in $19.97 or lose 10 to 20 times more than that every single year. James, do you have the links in the chat box?
I do. I hope they got posted. If I could get someone to just confirm and let me know that the links, I typed them in okay. Just type in yes. Okay, perfect. And I didn't make any typos. So fantastic.
Okay.
Otherwise, you guys can just open up a new browser and go to www.jameswedmore.com/Jim, or for PayPal, jameswedmore.com/Jim PayPal.
But that one doesn't do payments.
But that doesn't do payments. It pay in full. But I got to say, I had no idea you were doing this fast acting bonus. Thank you. I think that is extremely generous. And
well, I have more. Let me go for a second here. Yeah. Well, before we go into that, because I want them to think about something. So, guys, who the program is not for, James will tell you, and anybody that knows me, I'm a really nice guy. And one of my values in relationships is that I believe it's important to be kind. I work with high performing people, seriously, like James. I work with high performing people. If you've got a bad attitude, or you got your head in the mud, or you're stuck upside down and you want to be a victim, or you're going to be a crybaby about the homework, or you're going to be lazy, do all of us a favor. Do not register for this coaching. And I mean that as kindly as I possibly can say that. I do not want you in the coaching because I do not want to babysit. If you're actually really doing things and you want to go to the next level, you're the typical person that I work with. If you're going to whine and groan all day long, just click off now and go watch Kardashians or whatever you want to watch. But seriously, I do not want you in the coaching. And I mean that kindly, but I mean that seriously. The guarantee is this: 100% 90-day guarantee. The conditions are be on 80% of the live calls. You guys know we can track that. Turn in your completed program homework, and it's all got to be finished. And you cannot send me a message on Facebook going, "Hey, Jim, I want a refund." 3 weeks in, you have to finish the program. And if you want a refund, you pick up the phone, you be courageous enough, because I'm going to stop you from stopping on yourself. You pick up the phone, you talk to my project manager, Nikki, or me, you set an appointment, and you visit with me. James, the reason that I do it like this is I had a guy one time in this program group, 3 weeks in, he's like, I want to quit. And I said, I reminded him of the guarantee. And he goes, well, Jim, I didn't know the program would be this intense. I don't want to look that deeply at myself. Well, guess what? There's only 50 spots. They will be filled. I'm not going to let you quit and take somebody else's spot that's serious about transformation. So these are the requirements for the 100% guarantee. Now, right now, many of you may be between feasibility and desire. I really desire this transformation with Jim, but I'm not sure how feasible it is because of money. Well, let me show you this. What you have to look at is how responsible you're being for your business. The definition of responsibility is the state of being the person who caused something to happen. So if you do nothing different, then you're responsible for your business not growing. You get into transformation coaching with me and your business takes off. You are now responsible for taking that act and being the person to be responsible for the growth of your business. So what I want you to get is that what's going to happen in your business is what you are directly responsible for. A couple more slides here and I'll come back to you again, James. Now, some of you might be saying, Jim, I want to do this, but I don't have the money. And you know what, guys? I used to work from that very same place. And James, what do you think happened when I worked from that place?
You continued to not have any money?
That's exactly it. And I remember many years ago, my coach taught me, she says, anytime that we say, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, and I don't have enough money, we're working from our circumstance. And when we work from our circumstances, we repeat our circumstances. So you sitting there watching and listening right now, I don't want you to actually take money you don't have or whatever. That's not my job. I'm not trying to pull money out of your pocket, but I want you to look at who you're being and how you show up. When somebody's offering you a golden goose to grow your business and you're like, nah, I really can't stretch right now. I can't afford it right now. I don't have time. If you come with that way of being, I give you my word, and I've done this 25 years. Don't expect your business to grow because you will be in the same place this time next year because that is the way that you're being. And the final question is this. Where do you predict that you're going to be a year from now if you do nothing different and you do not become someone more skilled? All right, James, I turn it back over to you. So what's next for them? It's time to take action. So where do we want to go from here?
First thing, I want to thank you. Again,
Absolutely.
This is extraordinary. I do want to update everybody and probably update you as well because you did mention 50 spots. We're already halfway filled on that. And so I'm sure, I want to open up the lines for questions in a moment.
Let's
I'm
do it.
sure one of those questions might be like, how long is this offer available? I think we mentioned that we will keep this open until Friday. I don't think we're still going to have spots by Friday.
They'll be gone by tomorrow.
Yeah. So we want to keep Jim on the line as much as we can to answer every question. So if you are on the fence or you need some clarification, type in your questions now. I'd love to moderate those and get those to Jim. And then we'll go into any other questions, if Jim, if you will allow for that you had
Sure.
about tonight's training and content. We'll make sure, of course, you guys all get a replay. You'll get a follow-up email and all that good jazz. I want to thank you again, first and foremost. And if everyone else could just thank Jim, and share your gratitude, because he did mention this, but he's doing this on his birthday. I threw this date out to him. I said, let's do February 6th because that works for me. And he goes, well, it's my birthday, so why the heck not? And I thought that was so generous of your time and energy. And I think
thank you.
You brought it today at such an incredible level. And you're right. You will not be the same person at the end of this program. So this is really like a question if you're ready to be cut loose.
Hey, James, let me add there. Nikki texted me, and she goes, the most popular question she's getting, and thank you, Nikki, for texting me, is, I get this, but how do I change my identity? James has been through part of my identity program. Guys, I didn't even mention it in the offering. I'm going to give you actually several other programs that I have. Some are not released to the public, to actually show you how to actually reprogram your subconscious mind, how to change your identity. And these programs will be aside, and they're full-length programs. They will be aside from everything else that we're doing. Every tool that you need, I will give to you. So I want you guys to know that. Because I can't spend 3 hours explaining tonight on this call, on this webinar, how to change your identity, but I will give you full 100% step-by-step coaching and training in that. So I just wanted to mention that. People are asking that.
That's fantastic. And again, the link is jameswedmore.com/Jim, Jim, or /Jim PayPal. I want to go ahead, if that's okay with you, unless you have something else, I want to see if we can address some questions. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yep. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Let me pull some up.
I can relax now.
Yeah. And you got a bunch of birthday wishes as well.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
And to be happy, Big Mike said, I'll be happy to send you several cans of oysters. So very, very kind right there.
Thank you. Oh, I've been wanting that all day long. I was hoping somebody would send me that for my birthday. Not.
Look, we got a lot of people that have already signed up. Like I said, we're already more than halfway filled on the program.
James, no, there's only 10 spots left out of 50.
Okay, there's only 10 spots yet. What I'd like to do is if you've purchased, if you've joined, just go ahead and shout it out in the chat box, the Q&A box, so we can acknowledge you as well. And we will announce, someone asked, how do we know if we are the first 10 that bought? I think we're going to have to do that.
Nikki's tracking.
What's that?
Nikki's tracking for us. Nikki knows.
Nikki's tracking, but they'll give like a follow-up email or something. Is that
yes?
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when does Sue asked a great question. So when does the program start? When's week 1?
Oh, we didn't cover it. Duh. Okay. We're gonna start actually for people. We start a week from now. We start next Tuesday at, I think, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Live call.
Get ready.
And by the way, guys, I will be in the Facebook Live with you guys every day. I'm in the trenches with you. That's kind of my fault. I really go all in because I'm excited about this. Yeah. So we'll do the lives on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You will get a recording of that as well. Okay.
Coco says, question, James or Jim, if we select the payment plan while on the call, do we get the bonus? Yes, if you were in the first 10. And I apologize, I didn't get to that question earlier. But that would still apply even if they got the payment plan. I don't know if we covered that, so I'm just going to assume yes. But first 10.
Hang on, James. Yeah. Hang on. Nikki's texting me also. Is the course going to be available after the 13 weeks, or are they to be used concurrently? I'm going to give you some additional courses on the identity and subconscious reprogramming. Those will be in the first couple of weeks of your time with me. I will give them to you. My objective is to completely transform you from the inside out within 90 days. So no, Laura, it was Laura. Laura asked, will she get the programs later? No, everything's going to come early in our time together because I want to be able to coach you through any questions you might have in our time together.
Love it.
Sorry, James, go ahead.
No worries. Angelina says, I just paid in full and I'm looking forward to having a transformational year and a transformational me. I love that. Welcome, Angelina. Congratulations. Okay.
James, hang on. I feel like we're on a telethon, guys, and this is so not me, even though I teach persuasion and influence. Nikki just texted me there's 3 spots left.
That does sound like a ton. Hold on, the operators are standing by.
We're closed. Guys, the card's closed. We're done.
Oh.
We can ask questions, though. We can answer questions, but the card's closed.
Okay, got it. So let's what do you want to do? We just ask some questions.
Yeah.
Content.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay, got it. Oh, well, here's a great question from Heidi. When will there be another one offered?
It's up to you, Mr. Wedmore.
Putting you on the spot. Putting me now. You're putting me on the spot. Okay, well, we'll let you guys know. I knew this was going to go fast, but I'll be honest, I did not know it was going to go this fast. I had like a follow-up email all planned out and all that. Okay. Yeah, Tahira said, wow, that went fast. Okay, so yeah, a couple other people asked about how will we know about the first 10, and Nikki's tracking that, and she will get that information out immediately. Let's jump to questions about the training tonight. I'm going to look through for any content or questions about tonight's content or training. Was there something you'd like more clarification on? You'd like Jim to go further over? A ton of people are asking, when is this going to be available again in the future? So maybe we should have just been a little bit more like, get ready. This is going to go fast. So I apologize.
Well, we don't want to be overzealous marketers. I mean, we're marketers, guys, and everyone on the call. I'm a marketer, and I also teach persuasion and influence. And by the way, everybody that registered, I'll also give you access to all of my subconscious persuasion and influence training, which will make you a ton of money. But you know what? I didn't think I don't know. I didn't know what's going to happen. I had no expectation. My thing was, let me get on and let me serve. So here, James, is my takeaway. I've got 30 minutes left because I have to go to the bathroom. So let's take 30 minutes. I'm just being human. I got 30 minutes left. So let's answer questions.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is a question from Sherry. Is commitment in business and needing to course correct? I'm not sure if I understand this, but I'll just read it. Is commitment in business and needing to course correct breaking commitment?
I don't understand the question.
I don't either, but Sherry, if you want to expand on that, I'm sure we'll have time to get to that. Okay, Katana asked, can you talk about the mindset habits more and how to stop and change thought while we're in the moment? Let's address that second thing. How do you stop and change thought in the moment?
Great. And these are all things, guys, that you will get in the longer program, but I only had an hour to pack it all in tonight. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. Anytime that you feel bad, I'm getting some feedback, by the way, James. I'm getting some.
How about now?
There, better. Nope, not better.
Maybe I'll put some headphones on. So give me just a second. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else is. Are you guys getting feedback? Why don't you each go ahead and.
There we go. Are you there?
Yeah.
But better. Okay. So your barometer is, when you walk into the dry cleaners and they've got that little laser at the bottom that goes ding dong when you walk in, right? So they know that there's somebody coming in. All right. Your little laser is any time that you feel bad emotionally, in terms of thought, you in that moment are actually in thoughts that aren't serving you. So people will often say, well, how do I know when to use the thought formula? Anytime that you are angry, frustrated, tired, agitated, any kind of counterproductive emotion, that is your little ding dong buzzer to tell you that you are miscreating and you're thinking from the lowest level of thought. Then what you do is you actually, that will let you know. That's like the alarm clock. That lets you know. And that's when you say, you know what, I feel like crap right now, or however, I'm angry right now. I'm at the lowest level of thought. I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker of my thoughts. Being the thinker of my thoughts, I can choose new thoughts, and I now move my attention and choose to think blank. So to answer that question, your emotions will tell you when you need to use that thought formula. Did that make sense to her?
I hope so. It made sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to keep going with a few more questions. Well, that was great. Let's see. Sydney has questions around time management, prioritizing, and how we can start to work more consistently and have follow through.
I'm sorry, again, how can we?
Yeah, so she's saying, so how can we start to work with more consistency and follow through?
Okay, that's a great question because that's behavior, right?
Yes.
So what I would ask her is how consistent are you in everything else that you do? And then what are your beliefs about consistency and follow through? I learned from my father, who was an alcoholic, and that's not part of my story. I'm not a victim about that, but that's part of my factual story, is that I watched my father never finish anything. He would start things and never finish. So until I was 18, I saw that pattern. So I learned that it was okay to start things and not to finish things. So the way that we do that is unconscious reprogramming. Is we even have to look at our being. Who am I being when I start things and I don't finish? Who am I being and how am I being when I start things and I'm inconsistent with it and I don't finish with it? That also is a really big trap. So how we do that is we start working on our self-image and our identity about being a person who follows through. On the flip side, James, look at you. You are, by the way, guys, I'm not giving any false kudos here. James is, when it comes to commitment and follow through, he's been one of the best clients I've ever worked with, because when he knows he's got to get something done, he is the kind of person, identity wise, that he actually puts his head down. As a matter of fact, James, you know, you don't return phone calls, you don't return texts, you put your head down and you go, right?
I don't have a problem with focus.
Yeah,
I shut that stuff out when I'm focused. Yeah.
exactly. But see, to the person that asked that question, that's how James works. That's who he is as a being. So what we could do, if we want to start from the behavioral level, is start training ourselves. Okay, start training ourselves to be a person that actually follows through. She also might not be a person that can actually follow through with commitment. There's an app that's called Commit to Three. It's free. You can get it, in the marketplace, whatever, the app store. It's called Commit to Three. Most people can't follow through and they don't know how to follow through on commitments. If you don't know how, then start training yourself to follow through on commitments. Get the app and start actually setting up 3 commitments every day and make sure that you follow through, which will train you, providing that's the challenge you're having, will train you how to actually start working from commitment. Hopefully that answered her question.
Yeah, it does. Or it does for me at least. It clarifies that. I want to go through a couple more. This is from Terry. I believe this was the clarifying. If you had to change directions in your business, let me say that again. If you have had to change directions in your business, the question is that staying committed? Maybe that's what it
No.
was.
Well, yeah, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say no. I was thinking of something else here. Notice what she says there, guys, and this is how I coach. She said, read the exact question. If
Well,
I
actually,
had to change,
yeah, no, and I apologize. It's a little confusing because there's Sherry is asking it, but then Terry was clarifying it. So I'm going to go back to what Sherry wrote. So if I had, this is what Sherry's writing. Sorry, that was my bad, guys. So if I have a commitment and a plan and I need to adjust the plan or course correct, is that a habit of breaking commitment?
if you've got a pattern of it, yes. If you see you're doing that all the time and that's a past behavior, then yes. I know a lot of people that will start things and they'll get 3/4 done and they stop, and that's their pattern. Guys, when I coach you guys, those in coaching, I watch for evidence and I watch for behavior. Because see, that will tell me far more than what your mouth will ever tell me, because you're going to tell me what you think, and many times what you think is self-deception. So many times we find that's a very general question, but she's basically saying, if I'm not getting what I want, should I course correct? That's the way that I'm reading that. Is that correct?
That's how. And is that bad or is that a breaking of commitment? Yeah.
Well, even notice what she said also, guys, and here's even more coaching. She said, is that bad? Notice where she's already working from. She's working from bad or good. So what I wonder, if I were coaching her, is where else in her personality is she classifying things as either good or bad and then qualifying all of her behavior by that?
Well, in all fairness, it was me that added the bad part.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sherry didn't do that. Yeah.
What I look at is, do my strategies, meaning what I'm doing in behavior, does that get me the outcomes that I want? If it's getting me the outcomes or getting me close to the outcomes, then it's a productive strategy. And if it's not getting me the outcomes, then it's a counterproductive strategy. In that moment, then I'm gonna change. But let's shuck it all the way back, guys. What we're gonna do early in our time together is we're gonna start looking at your values. Meaning, many of you might even be working businesses for the wrong values. And it doesn't mean you should stop the business, but maybe subconsciously, let's say, for example, many people will set goals for, I want to make $100,000 or two or 500,000 a year. And that's where they try to work from. But I'm going to take you guys through an exercise that will show you what your real subconscious values are. And if money doesn't show up in your subconscious values, then guess what? No matter how much you try to chase money, it ain't going to happen. So what we have to look at, let's say that helping people is one of your subconscious and high values. Well, then we shift your thinking to, that's where you work from in your business. Stop chasing the money, because now it's easier to keep yourself motivated because you're working from your highest value. Hopefully that answered the question.
It I think it does.
Okay.
And I just think a lot of people gave some really resonated with you talking about where you learned um, not to follow through from your dad, and a lot of people
Oh,
are
that's
sharing
so prevalent.
it's the same with us. Yeah.
So
Um,
prevalent.
Sally just responded and said, "Yes, that was a $2,000 answer right there. Amazing, I love it."
So prevalent.
I'm gonna look for another someone.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it was Jeff. So Jeff said there was a slide that I'm impressed that Jeff noticed that there was a slide that Jim skipped over that was about the stories we tell ourselves.
Oh,
Do
I
you mind
took it
taking?
out.
Do you mind just talking verbatim about that?
It's yeah, absolutely. It's I took it out because I know myself and I knew we are going to run over and we wanted to hit an hour. So I took it out last minute. What I wrote down is this is, and this is in the for everybody in coaching with me, you'll get the full video program, the thought program. There's a much bigger program you guys will get. And anytime we wake up in the morning, we start telling ourselves stories about what is what. What's today look like? What do I have to do? I've got this fire, I've got that fire, I've got this money. We tell ourselves stories. What I want you to get, every one of you, is that everything that you say to yourself is a story. And that story is an illusionary story that you have made up in your mind. So the slide that I took out is what story would someone tell themselves who already has what you want?
Mm.
What story? Because see, their story is different than the story you're telling yourself. Because see, the story you're telling yourself is getting you the outcome that you want. And if you're not getting the outcome that you want, it's because you're not telling that story. So then we have to realize, and it's so simple and so profound, but it's so simple we miss it because we as human beings like to make things hard. So if I'm not getting what I want, I have to ask myself, what story would somebody tell who already has that? What story would they tell themselves? Now I have to start adopting aspects of that story. So that's the slide that I took out is what story would somebody tell who already has what I want?
So good. Well, thank you, Jim, and I appreciate you staying on a little longer to answer some of these questions.
Sure.
I want to quickly acknowledge a lot of the people, not of course everyone that signed up, but those that shared in the group. Mariah McCullough, I'm in. Sydney joined. Rebecca Duros, Tanya, Chris, Dawn, Sally, Jen Rede, Nicole, Sherry. Yep, Sydney, Sherry. Said that twice. And more. Walter, I'm going to do one or two more. Babita, and I'm looking for more people that said I'm in. But we filled
Wait,
up,
James.
man. We filled
Hang
up
on.
fast.
Yeah, from the heart, guys, thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, as I said, what matters to you. Because, see, people are all told you got to find your big why. I tell people that's all nonsense. I've seen people try to look for their why for 3 years and they can't find their why. What I tell people, and you guys will learn from me in coaching, what I tell people is this: instead of looking for your why, what makes your life matter? And as I mentioned earlier, what makes me matter is that I make a real difference in your life. So thank you for investing, for those of you that have been here tonight. Thank you for investing your time and your energy in tonight. Because without you, it's not possible for me to do what matters for me and what matters for James.
Yeah.
Okay, couple more questions.
No, just a bunch more people that are sharing that they're in, like Lori. Where else did I see? Mark Bailey. Just want to congratulate you guys, acknowledge you guys. I do apologize for everyone else. I know there's a lot of people that say they want to get on a waiting list, so we will update you with all of that. And I just want to thank you guys for being here, close to 2 hours now, and staying present and giving Jim your attention as he just blew our minds here.
And they gave me theirs too.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any final thoughts for everyone before we wrap it up and you go back to your birthday celebration?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even gotten to have birthday dinner yet. Here's what I told you guys earlier, and a lot of people hopped on this, and it took me a long time to really get this. And my brother-in-law, the shaman, is the one that really brought it to my awareness and brought it home. Is that, and even though I talked about the science and everything else, is you're not going to have what you want. Let me put it this way: you're only going to have what you're being.
Hmm.
And if you're not being something different, people think, like I said earlier, something magically is going to happen and something's going to just show up in their life. The universe doesn't work that way, and it can't work that way because let's say if you're being negative, and we're all electromagnetic, beings and vibration. What are you going to attract back to you by being that thing? And so what I want everyone to get, and James will say this changed his life, and there's a whole science behind this, and won't go into it. But the number one way to be, what do you think I'm going to say, James? The number one way to be life.
The H word.
Yep. What is that way?
Happy.
Be happy. Be happy every single day, no matter what's going on in your life. Because, see, when you're happy every day, that filters into everything else in your life and every other way that you show up. But most of us go through our life miserable. And then many people think also that, oh, if I had more money, I'd be happy. They don't even realize that money doesn't make a happy life because you see people with a lot of money and are not happy. It's a happy life that makes money and a successful business. So, whatever you do, work on being mindful of making the choice of being happy every single day because it's going to change your life and it's going to change the world. That would be
Amen.
my final parting thought.
I love
And
it.
to everyone who registered for coaching, Nikki will be in touch with you. We'll get you guys taken care of, and we're going to fast start. So I'm in your corner, guys, and thank you for trusting to let us do this with you and to help you go to a higher level. And for everyone else, we'll talk to James. We might have another program. We'll see.
We will see. We will keep you guys updated. So keep an eye on your inbox. We're going to send you the recording ASA possible. Other than that, thank you guys again for being here, hanging out live with us. Jim, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, guys.
For everyone here, have a fantastic evening. And I'll see you next time we do this.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you so much. Stay well, everybody. Bye-bye.